Hey everybody, this is Zeb Welborn. I am here to talk with Jared and Heath. We're going to be talking about artificial intelligence today. They are going to be speaking on a panel at the W.A.C.E conference, which is coming up. And today we thought we'd just riff a little bit on AI. Heath and I actually did an episode previously. Jared is joining us as a panelist because we heard that he is, I think they call his name Chat GPT Jared. Is that right? Or Jared Chat GPT? I can't even remember.
Jared
Uh,
ChatGPT.
Jared ChatGPT. So he is using this tool heavily, and that's what we wanted to share a little bit more and go more in depth because the one that Heath and I did about 6 months ago, and a lot of stuff has happened in those last 6 months when it comes to artificial intelligence. And so I wanted to have a brief chat about ChatGPT, artificial intelligence, and what that looks like moving forward. So, Jared, since you weren't here last time, let's kick it off with you. Tell me a little bit about your experience with ChatGPT and what you use it for in the chamber.
Well, I have to be honest. I heard about it through the grapevine, as most of us have, either it be through other individuals or the media or whatever. And I started kind of just playing around with it and seeing what I could get away with. And then all of a sudden started to realize really quickly, chambers are low on resources and low on, the ability to get things done. And we need to tools in our arsenal to be able to get stuff done fast. And they're complicated things that require a lot of time, attention, and detail, which, when you're juggling 50 things is really difficult to dial in quickly. And I started to realize that ChatGPT kind of did that for me. It took everything that was in my brain and formulated it in a way that made it professional, strategic, directional, and on point. And so I started to realize that I can't argue, right, with what I'm dealing with here, and the amount of work I'm able to get done within such a short period of time. And that productivity is time that I can give back to my members.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Let me ask you this. What is the number one thing that you've used it for in the chamber space that is like, this is mind blowing, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me?
So honestly, I think it's hard to dial that in because I feel like in every way that I use it, it is inspirational. I've used it for policy. I've used it for bylaws. I've used it for writing emails. I to make this human and real. We all deal with difficult situations, and sometimes you're replying to an email and you know what you want to say, but you're dealing with a situation that may require a little bit more finesse, and you're not in that place to be able to provide that. And I've used chat to kind of give me that finesse, right? And to come off in a way that I know I want to be projected, either through email dialogue or any other type of correspondence, to kind of set me straight and realize, okay, this is actually how I want to formulate this versus what I'm just kind of doing right off the top of my head.
Yeah, and like funding requests and grants and things like that too. Like just wording those things specific for the brand that you're addressing is just really helpful and quick. So you don't have to really give it a lot of thought. You can just say, revamp this for this brand. Here's the parameters.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then Heath, let's talk about your number one thing. What's the number one thing that you feel like you've used this for where it's been a game changer for you?
I think business plans. I think like we create business plans based on like the focus items that our chamber and other organizations that we work with are trying to point ourselves in that direction. So we can come up with something. Workforce development has been a huge focus point for us this year. So we've used that to develop the plans for our workforce development plans and making sure that they stay finite to what the chamber purpose is. So I think that that's been the biggest thing for us this year.
That's awesome. And then probably a question that I would have, or like not somebody although I do use it all the time, but a question that somebody might not use it all the time. How often do you actually use it? Do you use it daily? Do you use it hourly? Do you use it once a week? How often do you use it, Heath?
Daily at least daily. I would say on many days hourly. Even if it's just hey, check this what I've written just to double check something to make sure that I haven't missed anything, or to upload an agenda into it and say, break this down into more detail, or break this down into task items for us to complete this month. Like genuinely, I use it all the time, probably more than I'd like to admit.
Jared, you're nodding your head. Same for you.
I agree 100%. I think when you first start using it, there's almost a sense of guilt involved in what you're able to it's able to do for you. And you kind of wonder like, gosh, do you feel like maybe you're not giving what you should be giving? But when I also think on the other side of it, what time it gives back, right? It's just like, 30, 40 years ago when there wasn't Microsoft Office and people were communicating through messaging and without email and by telephone or by letter. And then all of a sudden there were these tools that made things so much faster and easier. This is essentially what we're dealing with here. And so, it's just a new form of what all of that looks like. And it does an amazing job
Yeah.
at what it presents.
And I'm dyslexic. I don't know if either of you know that, but I'm dyslexic. So
I didn't, but it's good to know.
I'm sure that there are signs, but so for me, it used to always just be the sticking point as a leader with a disability, being able to say, I'd have either my secretary or my admin look at this, like, hey, look at this and make sure that this is right before I send it out. Now I don't need to necessarily rely on other people. This is a tool that I trust to be able to make sure that I'm communicating properly and effectively.
Yeah, and what do you see? Sorry, go ahead,
Yeah.
Jared.
No, I'm just gonna say that is a great example. I would concur with that. I don't know that I was ever diagnosed with dyslexia, but maybe who knows?
And then how about the challenge? So like I use it regularly. There's challenges that come about with using it. What's the biggest challenges you've encountered while using it, Jared?
Actually, I'm curious to hear what your challenge is.
Ooh.
How about you, Heath? I'll share with you in a second.
Dang. Okay. So I would say the challenge is learning how to prompt. I think that a lot of people think that ChatGPT is easy, and it is. And you can get lots of AI responses, and they feel like AI responses. But as you learn to dial in your prompting and do it properly, then you're coming up with a more human-like response. Jared, we were talking earlier before we started recording about using your language and uploading your language into it so it learns you and your personality, and it can respond as Jared, not necessarily as ChatGPT. And I think that that's important, especially when we're talking about brand development and coming up with, like, we're a chamber of commerce. How would a chamber of commerce respond? That might be one thing. How would a marketing committee respond? That might be another thing. And who is our audience? So we might direct that a little bit differently. So there's skill related to that I don't think people understand.
Now that you bring that up, I was trying to think to myself, what do I find as a challenge? Because I felt like initially when Zeb asked that I had no challenges, it was just easy. But what I will say is there was this one time, right, when I was teetering on the fence of whether or not to pay for ChatGPT. And I swear it's almost as if the walls heard me, because all of a sudden I've been using the free version and it was working great. And then all of a sudden, as I was starting to kind of contemplate whether or not I should pay for the version that is more robust, ChatGPT kind of stopped understanding me, and it kind of stopped really working the way I was expecting it to work. And I finally kind of gave up and then said, this is what I need. I'm going to go ahead and pay for it. So I paid for it. And then all of a sudden, it started to work exactly the way I remembered it in the free version. So I don't know if that was strategic from ChatGPT.
It was, they monetized. Once they started to monetize, it changed. And much like some of the other platforms that we've used that have been free in the past. Now, like Facebook used to be super free, our algorithms were super clean, and now that has changed, right? If you're not paying for space, if you're not paying for clicks, then your the whole thing shifts. And I think ChatGPT did that too.
Well, I think that this is good for everybody to know, though, right? So if you're looking to dive into this, right, understand that if you're going to use the free version, it probably isn't the free version that you and I and Zeb had access to for a period of time that really got us addicted to a sense and engaged
Yeah.
to want to move forward, you may have to pay for it to really get the robustness that we experience.
Or you may not have access to it at all. Like the free version, I remember once the paid version came out, I remember it being down when I needed it and being able to log in and just like come back in, 3 hours or whatever and try again later. And that was a huge pain.
Yeah, and I'll say that the challenge that I've experienced is pretty much what you guys have articulated is that it often has like the same phrasing and the same terminology that you can clearly tell just by observing it that it was written by ChatGPT. So like I'll ask my staff to so it's very easy for me to identify just by looking at it, like, yeah, that was a ChatGPT thing versus, yeah, this was an authentic Zeb Welborn thing. So you can identify those pretty quickly. So I've learned to not do that anymore. Everything that I'm doing, I'm kind of editing with a fine-tooth comb for the most part because I still use it for the idea generation, but I don't like copy, paste, send kind of thing that I probably did at the beginning. So that's my challenge. But this morning, so I like maybe doing something fresh. I would love to share some examples of how you use it in your day-to-day that people may not realize. So I'll just share an example of what I use it. So I use it this morning. You guys know I have a marketing business. So in my marketing business, I was meeting with my team. So it's my sister and one of our staff members, and we're going through our goals for the year. And so the goals for the year, one, we want to do a rebranding. So we've been talking and discussing about logos. So we use ChatGPT and the new Dolly to like test out some different logo ideas. So I can't write. I'm not a drawer. I'm not an artistic person at all, but I can throw the ideas that I've had in there for the new logo design and just say, hey, does this make sense? Is this something that looks cool? And so we went through a few iterations of those. We got a sense of an idea. My sister's the graphic one, so she's going to run with that. Now, the other thing we did was we did the goal setting piece, which is we wanted to create some objectives, but the objectives, when we looked at them, were kind of like, I'd say they were boring. So we wanted to kind of spice those up a little bit. And so we had more robust language that was around the objectives. And then we also created the key results that went along with those objectives. So we came up with 3 or 4 things that we wanted to implement that we were going to track and use data for. And I just threw that into ChatGPT that came up with 3 or 4 things for each of those objectives that we said we wanted to accomplish this year. So the goal setting, which would normally have taken me a month or two of back and forth kind of doing it. We did it in an hour-long meeting, trying to start off the rebranding guide, set our goals for the year, and then set what those expectations of those goals are going to be. And so we did that all this morning before I got on today. What's the last time you used it for, Jared? What's something you've used it for recently?
Well, many chambers have magazines, and then they do like articles from different committees and so on and so forth. I use mine for the message of the president. It just refines it in a way. I mean, I always make sure that it still sounds like me, to your point, Zeb, right? But I definitely use it to kind of articulate what I would like for it to say and what the direction is. I tell it what my vision is, where I want it to kind of go with regards to the article, and then hit enter, and in seconds I have exactly what I need to go ahead and submit, and it's amazing, right? That was one.
Well, Heath, how about you?
Recently, like today, I haven't used it today. I'll be honest. But I just had to redo some of our goals. One of the projects that we were working in, the end project completely changed. It completely shifted, which I had broken everything down because I'm super anal retentive about making sure like my month-to-month plans meet my end goal. And so it completely restructured my month-to-month to get to the end goal so that I could make sure I was still on task and on time.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's a great way to use it. And then, one of the things that I'm always curious to get your thoughts and opinions on is the future. These tools are coming out. We're using them. Before we got on the call, we were talking about some of the different tools that are not ChatGPT that are available. So let me start there. Is there another tool that you use that is not ChatGPT, but that is another artificial intelligence tool that you use regularly? Jared, how about start with you?
Currently, I do not. I'm not saying I'm opposed. I've just not seen anything that has moved me like ChatGPT has. I mean, I do think that there are risks, obviously, which we probably could talk about later, but and there's things you want to do to be cautious when using ChatGPT, but it's the only artificial intelligence software that I've currently seen in action that has been beyond helpful. And so to your question about future, I would say, look at where we were, like I said to my example before, 40 years ago when we didn't have Microsoft Office Suite, and now Google Suite is available, right? When we didn't have these ways of instant communication, what was our life in the business community? And here we are, and it's completely transformed the way that we do business. And I anticipate that AI will be the same.
Heath, is there any tools you use?
I think I'm with you. I think last year when we had this conversation, I think it was like February when we first started like to get on fire for all of this. I tried everything. Like we bought paid parts of all these different programs because I wanted to see the variety of ways that it could be used. I used it to make grocery lists. I tried to integrate it in my daily life as much as possible so that I could get a feel for how it's used and use it a little bit easier. Zoom is great because you can use it to make it can record your meeting and then it can make your agenda for the next meeting. It can make your minutes for that meeting. But again, to Jared's point, making sure policies in place and that your state laws are in place for the recordings and that you're aware of those things. Canva integration is huge. Most chambers use Canva in their marketing. So being able to move the ChatGPT marketing plan for the month into the documents or the visuals that you need. For the chambers that are using podcasts, Descript and other AI tools like that can remove all of the beautiful ums and ahs from these kind of things, these little moments that I actually think are human. So, but we should continue to think about like how much should we remove and how much makes it genuine and feel real to us so that we feel like we're talking to people. Also, I think Photoshop's new AI integrations are pretty cool. Where you can remove backgrounds or you can change the color of the shirt, you can change the color of the hat, just by telling it what to do. And when Adobe bought into that, I guess it's been about 6 months ago, that's showing to me that Microsoft is integrating, Google is integrating. These are the main players, and those are the things that we look for to make sure that we're substantial.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And we had since we last chat, we hosted this artificial intelligence symposium. So I want to share three things that came out of that like struck me as things like future oriented stuff, and see what you guys think about that. So the first one was there was a gentleman, and I talked about this with you guys before I got on the show, he's a fire chief. He was doing these trainings, and it's kind of like a choose your own adventure training. So there's a fire incident that happens on your computer screen, and you're supposed to take actions. And then what's supposed to happen is the guy, his video comes on the screen, and he talks to you about what you did right or wrong. And so it changes constantly based on the actions that you take in those scenarios. And so what he was saying was he would record one of these videos. It would take him about 6 hours to record one because he wanted to get it right. And so it was basically like one video a day that he could record. So what he did was he went to Synthesia. They recorded him and they got his full body and they did it artificial intelligently. So he was able it looked like him that's talking. They recorded his voice. It sounded like him. He used ChatGPT to come up with the responses so he didn't have to like think through the whole process of doing it because usually they came up with the right answer. And then he would put that into the text of the script and then himself, which is the artificial intelligence version of himself, which looks and sounds just like him, was able to run through the entire script, talking about those things. And so what he said would take him he would do one video per day. He was doing about 60 a day in order to create this full program that he was doing. The second one was this tool called Zapier, which is where you can create these little automations where one thing goes to the next. So the way that it sounded interesting to me when he brought it up, which I found other tools have helped, but it was you're doing a meeting it records the meeting, and this is before the stuff that Heath just mentioned, but it records the meeting and then it sends you an email with all the minutes, all the action items, everything that you need to do. And so the challenge that I always have whenever I have meetings with people on Zoom or whatever, I'll have the meeting, I'll get busy, I'll forget to respond, and then I don't even respond or do minutes or take action items from those meetings because I've just moved on with my day. And so that would be an easy reminder that I would get to make sure that it doesn't happen. And then the last one was there's a medical people in the medical field that were doing artificial intelligence. So so this was more big picture stuff. They would be able to track demographics of people and their patterns in the healthcare industry to determine what are some solutions that need to be resolved to help avoid like catastrophic illness in different pockets. So they could identify like specific topics where this is where binge drinking is happening a lot, and you could work on resolving that. This is where some other areas are happening. And so they could identify geographically based off of the feedback they're getting, which pockets of communities needed support in different areas so they could address those healthcare needs. Another thing that I saw that they mentioned was that computers have such fine-tuned diagnostical tools that they could tell like if you have a disease based off of the particles of the air that is coming out of your mouth. So they could do like a training that are seeing that, and they could tell whether or not you have some kind of disease or not that they can assign early detection to and hopefully resolve as well. So those are some of the things that came out about like future uses of AI from that symposium. I'd be curious to know if you had any either you've listened to YouTube videos or thought about what a future looks like with artificial intelligence.
Well,
I
let's hope
do
it's
know.
not the Matrix. Because
Oh,
then we're all going
hopefully
to
it's
be in
not.
pods.
Yeah, we'll just all be in pods. It'll be like Wall-E. We'll just like rolling around. I have heard of community development offices using ChatGPT or AI in general to put in the metrics of their communities, information, demographics, and then it plot like the best businesses for open spots in the downtown and other things. I think that's super cool. We see like interior design companies using it so you can see furniture and redesign spaces without ever having to like leave your home. I think that we'll be integrating that into retail even more. I think that honestly, I think video game stuff is going to shift completely. We saw a lot of that at the consumer show in Vegas because of AI technology. As far as CTE training, like when we talk about workforce development, the programs like the construction pathways and those education fields are using AI to be able to build things, construction, let students experience real life problems without so much risk or even without so much expense. I think that's super cool. And so I think it's endless, honestly.
Jared, any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, no, I kind of agree. I think the sky is going to be the limit. It's I think we're going to start having to worry about how we dial it in and control it at some point. But that's a whole nother topic, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there is, like I think Heath and I shared last time, there's some fun, exciting things, but there's also some terrifying things that come out with that. And it's
Yeah.
making sure we manage that properly. And I think I always come in from a perspective of I want to see our businesses thrive. And you know that the businesses that are going to thrive in the future are the ones that are leveraging these tools to make them successful. And so us being models of that is going to be a good thing. So you guys are doing good work for your communities by doing that and sharing them as well. We're going to be speaking. So you guys are going to be running the session on artificial intelligence and ChatGPT at the W.A.C.E conference. And you guys are going to do much more of a hands-on demonstration style. So if you want to see ChatGPT in action, I encourage you to check that out. That'll be in, I don't even know the dates, but it's coming up in February, which we're looking forward to. So thank you guys for being panelists on that. Any last minute thoughts before we call it a day?
I don't think so. Jared?
The only one I've got is if you are still on the fence or unsure about giving it a try, you got nothing to lose. And put yourself out there. Just be cautious about what you're putting in content-wise. Don't put anything too private or too personal. But if it's generalized and you want to take a swig at it, go for it. Nothing's going to happen except for you might be pleasantly surprised, and then increase your overall time management and productivity by tenfold.
Yeah. And I think that, I'm from the East Coast, and that seems to have been a more siloed area. I feel like the California and West Coast chambers, like we all are super friendly with each other. So if you have questions, reach out to one of us and ask for help. I've found so many like human resources that have just exponentially changed the game for me, and I'm so appreciative of that.
Yeah, and to your point, Heath, today, I use ChatGPT, like you said, either every day or every hour. It just depends on the day, right? And I learned today about the integration with Canva. Sometimes we get so used to the way that we use our tools and resources that we don't look beyond to see if it can do anything more, right? And so now I'm opening up this whole new channel, which, thank goodness isn't my responsibility, but I'm now facilitating conversations with those individuals to see if we can start making things happen to make everybody's life easy.
Well said and well done. Thank you guys for being on the panel and helping bring artificial intelligence and ChatGPT to the chamber masses. Hope you guys have a great rest of the day, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
All right, sounds good.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.